Hello, everyone, and welcome to December 2nd. Oh my gosh, Kevin, we've been doing these since I think February or March this year.
Has it been
And
that
we're
long?
at the
Wow.
last month of 2021. And we thought, because we planted the seed last week about talking about green products. And we're not talking about your Christmas trees that you're going out to shop for. However, there's something that before we came on here, I wanted to talk about, because when I was a project manager, I ran into this lots with either homeowners or with restoration companies, that week after Christmas. And it's, so I'm going to get a real Christmas tree, a real live Christmas tree, either in a pot or you're going to put it in a container and you're going to fill it full of water. What's the proper prep for a real tree on hardwood floor? You're going to put it on your hardwood floor.
Yeah, that's a great question. And, there's so many different stands and of Christmas tree stands. I know I've tried half a dozen over the years that, to make them work, make them stand up straight. So it's hard to generalize, say to your particular type of stand. But the number one thing is definitely do not get water on your hardwood floor. And make sure that even no matter what you are putting water into, whatever kind of basin it's using in your stand, make sure it doesn't have a potential to leak or to, fall through and end up dripping on the wood. Because yeah, definitely, if you drop a glass of water on a hardwood floor and you wipe it up, that's not going to cause any issue. But we can definitely see damage from sustained water consistently being placed on the floor. So, pet food dishes, dog water bowls, that's a common culprit for that. Plant pots is another common culprit for that. You'll get a black ring, a permanent black ring underneath the pot. But yeah, a lot of people who don't have that during the rest of the year, they have the Christmas tree. And so now is the time to just be aware of that, keep in mind, and make sure that you're protecting your wood floor in whatever means possible.
I almost think of, just as I'm off the top, instead of like say an ugly piece of plastic or tarp or something like that to go down first, then you put your fancy Christmas skirt on, is maybe get a the slip and slide saucers that kind of put that down, because I know they have those for wash machines, that you can get a pan that you put in on your wash machine on, so in case it overflows, it doesn't affect your floor. So I'm just wondering, one of those saucers, those sliding saucers or snow slides, put your tree in there in the stand. That way you're going to be double protected. But you want to make sure that your floor, just as an FYI, is nice and clean underneath, because if it gets banged, you don't want to get any scratches. And we also say clean up your needles as they are coming off the tree, because you don't want those to have little scritchy marks as well, because you just never know, somebody picking them up on a slipper and away they go and scratch your floor. So there was just something top of mind. It's like, oh, I've never really thought about that until now. But oh, Jeanette, I remember seeing those black marks in people's homes all the time, and go, what can you do? And unless you want to sand the whole floor and refinish it, a lot of times that's your only option. So, Kevin, that leads us to the next question. So you go into home building supplies all the time, and it seems to be the buzzword right now, especially for BC, because we love to hug our trees out here. What does the words green product label on building supplies? What does that mean?
Wow. Yeah, we got about 2.5 hours to unpack that.
Let's go.
I guess the cynical side of me would say that that actually doesn't mean anything.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is when we began this company, and we started just to dig into the actual backgrounds of the products that we wanted to work with, and started doing the heavy research. And everybody loved to put claims on the boxes, or, verbally from the sales representatives, our product is this and that and everything else. But then, my next question is, well, can you show that to me? Can you, what evidence do you have? Can you prove it? And then all of a sudden you get a lot of ums and ahs and it's all of a sudden that simple next step was really, really difficult. So, there's a term out there I understand, it's called greenwashing. And, obviously it does have appeal to consumers, and some people would be inclined to just put it on the box or put it on the display in order to grab attention. But what that actually means is a whole lot more complicated than that, and it's going to depend on each category. Like at Ethical Flooring, we carry lots of categories of flooring, right? Like we're not just a hardwood store, even though we talk a lot about it and we love hardwood. We also sell many other types of products, and each of those is going to have its own story as to what's the best way to make it, what's the best way to ship it, what's the most environmentally friendly way to make and sell this product.
So it's almost like in the cooking industry or in the food industry, when you see that natural ingredients or natural flavors, there's a lot of times that doesn't have regulation out there in the food world. So it sounds like a little bit there's not as strict a regulation for that word green product.
No, not at all. And it's
wow.
there's almost no standard or regulation within the flooring industry, or I shouldn't say no. Again, it depends on per category. So there's so many difficult things, but let's say within the hardwood industry, at the very minimal base standard is you want to look at a formaldehyde emissions certification. And anybody that wants to sell hardwood into the United States, they have to have that, that certification. Surprisingly, to sell hardwood in Canada, you absolutely need no certification whatsoever. So anything can be brought into Canada, can have a label or a box that says green, this or that emission standard, but there's absolutely no proof required of the person making that claim. And I've run into that real instances where people have come and presented product to me that had logos on it of in third-party environmental testing certifications, and then I ask for the paperwork and proof, or I go to the website that lists people who legitimately have that logo, and that product isn't there. So you really have to do your homework and follow up to make sure that the claims that even are being made on the box or in the selling information is actually legitimate.
So what are some of the green products that you carry in the store in the way your flooring products?
Yeah, I mean, there's the kind of the trifecta that comes to mind almost immediately. So anybody that's looking at a carpet, in the carpet category, obviously wool carpet is the go-to product. And there's also various stages of wool or various grades, and each one has less and less chemicals and less processing involved. So you can get an almost pure wool carpet with a natural jute backing, and that's almost a perfectly organic flooring product that will break down. It's made out of renewable materials, and it will break down at the end of its life cycle. So we do an awful lot of wool carpet. On the hard surface side, so for people who don't want to have carpet, two of the big players that we work with are obviously Cork Floors. So Cork, again, renewable resource, harvested every approximately 7 years from the cork tree. Doesn't kill the tree, doesn't damage the tree, doesn't affect its life cycle at all. Yeah, and then we take that and turn it into hard surface flooring that's exceptionally, the renewable and is great. And the organic compounds, again, will break down in the landfill, but it's also a great product to live in, to have life on. It's very comfortable, very quiet, and very warm.
Okay.
And then the final one is Marmolium, which is a brand name of Forbo linoleum. And this is one of those technical terms that gets really messed up by people who aren't familiar into the flooring industry, which is obviously most people, and most average consumer has no reason to be interested in the flooring industry until they need a floor. But linoleum is actually an organic, natural product. It's one of the first mass-produced flooring categories, and it's made out of linseed oil, cork dust, and a whole bunch of other organic compounds. Obviously in the 60s and 70s, linoleum, the name got taken over by a synthetic version of it, basically PVC vinyl. It took the name linoleum, but it was never linoleum. It just kind of took on that name. But thankfully, linoleum in terms of consumer installations is back, and we work with the Marmolium brand. It's distributed by Forbo, and again, huge organic renewable component and in terms of recyclable or biodegradable at end of life cycle. I think it was like 97% of the product is biodegradable at end of life cycle. So those are the big three that,
Okay.
that I recommend and that we work with.
So you know what? We're coming up to the end. Why don't we start with cork?
Sure.
Next week we'll do cork, we'll do Marmolium, and then we'll do the wool carpet to
Sure.
wrap up December. Yeah, I want to get into this cork because that's a fascinating one to me. I think it's an option that a lot of people don't realize. I see a lot of cork options for wall decor and things like that. But let's just find out why someone would want to use a cork flooring, and make sure you bring some samples, because you know this world likes show and tell.
There's a lot of good reasons for cork, and even some of the new technologies to make it look like a hardwood floor is now available. So most people aren't aware of that. I think it's one of the coolest products we have in the store, and it's also one of the most underappreciated or unknown. So let's talk about that.
Let's appreciate cork next Wednesday at 2 o'clock. And thank you so much for tuning in today, Thursday. You're on our page today, Thursday at 2 o'clock, and we had to postpone till today. So thank you so much. I look forward to learning about cork next week with you, Kevin. Thank you so much.
Next week, Jeanette. Thank you. Bye-bye.